If the students are not able to join, you can tell them to see our college YouTube. There it is live. Okay. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It is getting set up. When I say, you can start.
Sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Kamalini Madam, you can start. It is on live on YouTube.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sir, now first welcome address.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
No problem, madam. You can do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I submit my pranams to the lotus feet of His Holiness Jagadguru Sri Shivaratri Desigendra Maga Swamigalavaru of Sutturmat, Mysore, and with his blessings, we commence the program. A warm good afternoon to all. It is my pleasure to deliver the welcome address. On behalf of JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research, Mysore, JSS College of Pharmacy, Ooty, I, Dr. B. Gauramma, as a chairperson of the Internal Complaints Committee, wholeheartedly welcome you all to this virtual awareness program for freshers on gender sensitization and prevention of sexual harassment, organized by Internal Complaints Committee, JSS College of Pharmacy, Ooty. First, I take this opportunity to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Kamalaveni, Assistant Professor, Department of Women's Studies, Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore, for her presence and delivering a talk on sexual assault. Welcome, ma'am. I would like to welcome our beloved principal, Dr. S.P. Dhanapal, for his continuous support to organize such type of program in our campus for the benefit of our students. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome our Vice Principal, Dr. Mohammad Afzal Azam, for this program. I welcome you, sir. I wholeheartedly welcome all faculty members, research scholars, and a special welcome to our dear first year students of these institutions. I welcome all the participants, guests, and invitees for this program. Once again, I welcome you all for this program. Now I introduce committee members of JSS College of Pharmacy, Ooty. Myself as chairperson, Dr. Praveen, Dr. Rupa, Dr. Khyati, Mr. J.C. Narayanan, NGO members, Mr. Rangaswamy, advocate, Mr. Inspector of Police, B1 Police Station, and the following students members also actively participated in Internal Complaints Committee, ma'am. Dr. Appa, Miss Abhi, research scholars, then. So it is audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It's audible, but then in between some noises were there. I think now it's okay.
Okay, ma'am. Some actively the PhD scholar, Form D and B Farm students actively participated in Internal Complaints Committee. Internal Complaints Committee is formed according to the provision of the sexual harassment at workplace. The orientation program on redressal of sexual harassment and gender sensitization will be conducted in the month of July. Because of this pandemic situation, little bit delayed. ICC decided to Internal Complaint Committee decided to conduct program at least once in 6 months to sensitize our students and faculty members. The speakers discuss about redressal. Procedure, do and do not for information about phenol, etc. With this brief.
Garma ma'am, unmute.
Okay, with this welcome address, hand over to Rupa Madam to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Kamalaveni Madam.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm here to introduce the speaker, and it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Kamala Veni, who is an assistant professor from Department of Women's Studies, Bharatiya University, Coimbatore. She has a professional experience of about 12 and plus years, and she has guided almost 50 PG students, as well as she is also guiding research scholars currently now. And during her tenure, she has received funding the grants from various agencies like Ministry of Women and Child Health, the Government of India, for undertaking the research work entitled Women's Contribution to Farm-Based Economics and Their Access to Land Rights, which was taken up in the Tamil Nadu state. And also she has received grants from National Commission for Women for the implementation of sexual harassment of women at workplace, prevention, prohibition, and redressal from various stakeholders who were part of the study from the district of Coimbatore as well. She has attended various seminars and conferences nationally and internationally, and she has made almost around 70 international presentations and 10 national presentations to her credit. And she has published a book and book chapters as well, and she has published her research work in various national and international journals as well. So I just conclude my introduction of the speaker, Dr. Kamala Demi, and welcome her to take up the presentation further. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I thank Gaurama ma'am and Rupa and one Katie who have been part of this webinar series. And I really feel privileged to be part of this JSS community. And it has, given me an opportunity to share my experiences and knowledge with you all. In turn, I do learn with you also. Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction that you gave me, ma'am. And I know I'm really excited to be part of this webinar series. And I mean, Gaurama ma'am has been conversing with me from long back, and it took so many days to actually implement this program. So it's fine, but that it has been done well and it has been well organized. I congratulate each one of you for taking this beautiful effort in bringing in and pulling in people to conduct this webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am. So let me talk about my presentation. Like, my presentation is divided into two parts. In the first half, I'll be talking about gender sensitization and the importance of the gender sensitization program. In the later half, I will be talking about the Sexual Harassment Act and its history, and what are the parts of the act and how it has been implemented, and maybe we can discuss about the merits and demerits in the later stage of my presentation. So to start with, like, why do we need gender sensitization programs, or what is gender sensitization? And I would also like to say that why did this gender sensitization program gain so much of importance after this acts being implemented? So gender sensitization actually is needed even before implementing this kind of acts, because once the person is sensitized towards one's gender, then I don't think the issues will be there, or the issues will be sorted out to the greater extent once the person is sensitized towards one's gender and one's gender's role. But somehow, first to start with, we need to know what is gender and what actually we are trying to mean in terms of gender. So gender is a socially constructed term which keeps changing over a period of time, or which can be changed from culture to culture. So gender sensitization program is nothing but changing the behavior of an individual and instilling empathy into the views that we hold about our own and the other gender. So for this, I would say a few examples. As I mean, the students are. Students, kindly mute your audio so that we will not disturb the crowd. I think we are huge in number. Once one person disturbs, I mean, the whole system gets spoiled. So let's be, keep our all audios mute. So I think even hosts can do that now. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'll try to do it anyway. You can continue, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of that.
Yeah. Thank you. So, gender is a socially constructed term which keeps changing over a period of time, or which keeps changing from the culture to culture, or which keeps changing even from state to state. Like it's the expectation from the society that is expected from an individual to behave according to meet the needs of the society. So, gender is basically a socially constructed term. This I would say, like as the students are from different discipline, like the students are from paramedical, we do have I think this is an heterogeneous group where boys and girls are present, and you can see the views that one hold about their own gender. For instance, I mean, if I'm going to talk about, I mean, if this is a debate and discussion kind of a class, it would be better that we try to change our attitude when we try to handle classes on changing attitude. So in that case, if I'm going to put up a question that where do girls study more and where do boys study more, immediately the answer would be that look at the classrooms, that we have more number of girls, and if you see a teaching community, we do feel that we have more number of teachers, and when we see a teaching profession, I mean when we see a nursing profession, we see more number of girls. Yes, of course, we see more number of women in that particular area. That is because it's traditionally considered to be a women's area where, the nurses, teaching jobs, etc., are considered to be, women's terrain, and that's how there the number of women have been more. But if you look at the areas like, technical fields like engineering, or even for the basic example, I would say yesterday we were discussing about social science of my son's social science subject of my son's class. Like he is into 10th standard and he has got a CBSE syllabus, and when we were discussing about an industrial outlook, I was surprised to see the text with the gender notion. Like the text says that women are not employed in this particular area because women cannot do heavy work. You can just see how the text by itself has got the gender attitude. Like you cannot just generalize saying that women are not able to do heavy work, or nor women are not able to do the higher most heaviest work. We can't say that. We can't just generalize that. But we do believe and think that women cannot do heavy work and only men can do heavy work. And there are some beliefs about our own gender. That is what I will be talking about in my further slides. Before even going to that slide, I will talk why this gender sensitization is need of the hour. If you look at that, globally there are 750 million women and girls who are married before the age of 18, and at least 200 million women and girls in 30 countries have undergone FMGs. And if I say FMGs, I think FMG must be a new term to, in spite of being a paramedical student, I think it must be a new term for you, because that is a social practices done in the African countries. Like how we practiced as other system, this FMG is practiced in most of the African countries, and even today, to some extent, in some areas, it's privileged. So these are all some kind of, a discrimination that is prevailing against one kind of gender. So what is female genital mutilation? It is where, the female genital part is cut off until the marriage, and it is stitched off, and it's only open during the marriage. So it's a kind of violence that is carried out against women. So this FMG is mostly practiced in African countries, and social activists like us have been fighting against it, and it has come to almost to some extent to an end, like how we have stopped our service system. So here what is needed, the gender sensitization is needed. So once the person is sensitized towards gender, then I don't think such kind of violences or such kind of discriminations would not take place. So in 18 countries, husbands can legally prevent their wives from working, and in 39 countries, daughters and sons do not have inheritance rights, and 49 countries lack laws protecting women from domestic violence. When I talk about this, in practical life, and you, me, whoever it is, if you keep conversing about husband and wife relationship, it would be a big debate, and we can discuss a lot on it. Like most of the time, husbands takes right, or they legally prevent women in many aspects, and to some extent, yes, there are many husbands who support their wives to come up also. That is a very small part, but the major part, they take over life. And if I talk to working women based on this aspects, how many women them, and it will be a big question, and people will jump around and say that people don't use Asian cards instead. They tend to give it to their husband once they start earning, most of the time. And sometimes sometimes women tend to take up their rights and they hold their economic independence with them. So why do we talk all this? Again, this is about the gender role they have. This is also a kind of violence when a person don't have independence to utilize their own earned money. So it becomes the voice that has to be raised. So 1 in 5 women and girls, including 19% of women and girls, are having experiencing the physical and sexual violences by their innate partners. These are all some research outputs that one person has to know, before going into the studying about the act, or before understanding what the sexual harassment and why it occurs. So that's the main reason here. So while women have made important roads into their political offices across the world, their representation in national parliaments, if you see, it's only 23%, 7%, which we are still far parity. And at this juncture, we all must be happy to no doubt that Indian-born women or Indian-born women hailing from Tamil Nadu has become, Vice President of the United States, which is strong patriarchal natural country. And I think everybody yesterday, India was celebrating the uptake of the Vice President's role in the United States, and feeling proud that women has taken up that position. And this is a kind of gender identity that has been created for all women, and we should feel proud of it also. Only 52% of women married or in union freely make their own decisions about sexual relationships or contraceptive use and health cares. And if you see, this says that only few women have the decision making process. That is what we are trying to tell you. So globally, women are just 13% of agricultural landholders. I think for this, I will be talking about few cartoons which talks about the land rights and inheritance rights, where women just keep working, and women just never, just forget to hold those rights on the land, or take up the land rights. So more than 100 countries have taken action to track budget allocations for gender equality. So in this aspect, I think even India has got this a scheme called as gender budgeting, where the government is trying to allocate budgets for gender equality. So I think we are also doing many programs on that also. Women in North Africa hold less than 1 in 5 paid jobs in non-agricultural sector. The proportion of women in paid employment outside agriculture sector has increased from 35% in 1990 to 41% in 2015. So which means that, the jobs outside, I will be talking about the private sphere and the public sphere, but before that, when we talk about this, we need to talk about women's role is dual in nature. So in our country like India, we always think that the primary domain, which is called as the household activity, is always considered to be women's activity. So women has been always, more knowledgeable and more comfortable working within the, private sphere. So due to the process of change, and we have raised voices in many areas, so women have started coming out from the private sphere to the public sphere, which is again the we can call it as the men's space, or it is the space where it is paid job. So all women are more equipped with the private jobs, that is the private sphere, which we call it as a household activity. So household activity is considered to be women's job. So if that is what I said. Even there are many researchers even researchers, and you can discuss with in your local areas. If a woman doesn't carry out household activity properly, then women won't be called it as a good woman. So by itself, you women does the household activity and she does perfectly everything, then you can be called as a so-called good woman. So if that the idea is that the private sphere is exclusively considered to be women's job, and are women, this current changes is, are women willing to the household job alone, which is not recognized properly, is a big question. So not all women are willing to do that, but they are forced to do that. So when they're forced to do that, naturally, they get more stressful and they're not happy with it. There are so many issues there which the voices has to be heard on their perspective too. So, I mean, what we are trying to tell us, this is a patriarchal society where it's a male-dominated society. So, male dictates the terms, and women are by that. So, this is one kind of social structure that is widely accepted in the society. So, this particular job that is carried within the household, house, has to be shared by both. That is what I think. Even during this lockdown, if you see, there was a lot of violences that has been happening against women, and there was a chance to understand women's role, and there was also a lot of ads and advertisements that were talking about women's role, and it was a chance to recognize women's work. But we need to look into the impact after the COVID-19 situation. So let us see whether the gender equality process is in a nearer space. So we'll take it in that way, that this COVID has really given a chance, to talk about gender equality. So that is where, so women, even if women come out to work, they work in mostly in unorganized sector. If they don't have education, and if they don't have equal qualification, they do take up the mostly the less paid jobs. And if you see in that specifically, even now, like you can just take a survey, especially college teachers like you, or the university teachers like you, whoever it is, you can just take up a survey that how many batches of students are coming out. So I think paramedical students are spending so much of money in studying their completing their graduation, or they're completing their post graduation. In that case, you can just see how many women are really taking up their employment immediately after their graduation, or immediately after their higher education, whatever it is. And you can just make a research and find out, like, the batch 1 to maybe to batch 5, and the total number of students, and how many take up the job, and how many really don't take up the job. So the idea behind this is just to understand how many are really taking up the well qualified paid job. So if you see, I see many engineering graduates just taking up tailoring jobs, or engineering graduates just taking up the beautician courses, and just they wanted to balance the household activity and their professional life. So the decisions that they make is they would have done the highermost qualification but take up the less paid jobs, which again is not so much productive to the development of an individual, and in turn to the development of a country. So this women need to think of why does this happen? Because of the gender discrimination. And you can see that women get less support, or women don't try to take support from the family and people around them. So the message that I would like to give to the young generation over here, especially the women students, is that don't hesitate to take up support from your people around you, or the surroundings around you. Never hesitate to take up support whenever, wherever it is needed. Do go forward and take up the support to excel in your profession, or to come up in a better way in the professional life. So never compromise a professional life. I always tell to all the educated community students that never think that if you have money you need not go for a job. It's not at all it's not at all that you go to a job to earn money. No, not at all. It's kind of recognition that you hold for yourself. That is the identity that you hold for yourself. Because the type we grow the girl child and the female male child is entirely different in a patriarchal society like us. That I'll be talking in my future slides. So in 46 countries, women now hold more than 30% of seats in national parliament, in at least chambers. And in this COVID-19 situation, and if you had a habit of reading newspapers, you would have come across how the women leadership tribes especially has differentiated the country development. If you take up in that case, there are countries like Thailand, New Zealand, the leaders like Jacinta Arnold, or the leaders like Angela Merkel of Germany have well done in their leadership trials, and you can see that those countries have compacted easily than the other countries in times of COVID-19 situation. So they had a bit of comparison, and they were talking about, and they just simply tell that women have unique and specific qualities in terms of, foreseeing the situation or in terms of handling the situation in a better way. So they have an attitude of empathy and putting themselves on the other side and looking the situation in a clear manner, which again is a good trait for the leadership. So this leadership traits have really, shown differences. And let's see the US Vice President of India, who is an Indian woman, like what will be the next 5 years for the US country. And people are expecting lots of changes to happen in countries like the United States. So my friends in the United States were all celebrating, and they felt so happy that they had change of leadership, and it's going. I mean, they are expecting a lot more changes to happen under women leadership. So in Southern Asia, girls' risk of marrying in child age has dropped from 40% since 2000. Of course, I mean, there are many social workers who are working to prevent the child marriage, and this prevention of child marriage has been the base for the enactment of the Sexual Harassment Act. I mean, when I come to that act, I'll let you know the small story with regard to that. In Southern Asia, I think I have told you, the rates of the girls between 15 to 19 who are subjected to female genital mutilation in 30 countries where the practices is concentrated have dropped from 2 in 2000 to 1 in 3 girls by 2017, which means the practices are still prevalent here and there. That's what the slide says. So now let's have a small look at the difference between the gender and sex. So sex is a biological term. Globally, we look anywhere or we go anywhere, women remains women and men remains men. But as far as the technological development, you might be wondering that, oh, there are a lot of changes, and there are so much of changes happening in technology. There is also a chance of getting transferred from male to female and female to male. Yes, that is very, very small percentage, but when you fix onto the nature and when you look at particular things, sex is a biological term and gender is a socially constructed term, and sex cannot be changed, and gender can be changed at any point of time from one culture to one culture, from country to country, wherever it is. So policies respond to sex differences in the areas to do with physical bodies. Only the policies that respond to the sex only deals with the bodies and not with the kind of thoughts or attitudinal changes. So policies can respond to gender stereotypes and traditional gender roles. So when we talk about the gender, these policies can respond to the gender stereotype and traditional stereotypes. So I think stereotype is a kind of word that everybody has to think about and talk about. So as I'm addressing a student, science background students, I would just talk few minutes on what is stereotyping. Like if I say, now we are around 170 participants, might be like 40 are boys and 130 might be girls. If I say, go and give me a cup of coffee, who will raise the hand and come up to pick the coffee? If you see, immediately it would be the 130 girls and not the boys. And that's how the mindset practices are within our mindset. If I say take a bike and shall we go for a shopping, the 30 boys will come up and move ahead to come up with the bike, which means there are certain roles which are strongly fixed within our mindset, and we don't tend to change that. So those characteristics are called as stereotyping. So we do expect that particular gender to carry out the same kind of work which is strongly inbuilt or inculcated within our mindset. So that I would be talking with a few examples. So when I talk about a man, what are the things that come to my mindset? The physical appearances, the nature, the emotions, the power, the independent thinkers, social knowledge. So I would just give a little more elaborate example. Imagine a home early in the morning. So who is at kitchen and who is with a newspaper with a cup of coffee? So the image that comes to your mind is the person with the newspaper and a cup of coffee will be your father, and the person who works and who runs around the kitchen will be your mother. This is the patriarchal setup, and that is how our mindset is. Can't it be interchanged? Yes, of course it can be interchanged. Why don't both of them take part in both the activities? Like from 6 to 6:30, might be two persons can work in the kitchen and complete the kitchen work and come out and have a cup of coffee and have the newspapers being discussed with both husband and wife. Won't it be nice? Just imagine a house like that. It would be definitely nice, but somehow we are stereotyped in that way that we strongly believe that household activities has to be done by women. And if you say beauty is strongly associated with women. And when you look at a woman, the first thing that comes to your mind is the beauty. So we also believe that women are mentally strong, they are patient, they are cultural, their sense of knowledge, they should be obedient, they should be dependent, they should sacrifice ourselves for the other members. Otherwise, you will not be called as a good woman. So reproduction is the major primary role that has to be played by women. Of course, the reproduction has to be done by women, but that cannot be the primary role that has to be played by women. But this again is stereotyped by the people around us, and we are strongly built in that. And look at the feminine characteristics and masculine characteristics. Feminine characteristics is something we say that not aggressive, dependent, easily influenced, submissive, passive, home-oriented, easily hurt emotionally, indecisive, talkative, gentle, sensitive to other feelings, very desirous of security, cries a lot. And if you see, the media also plays a major role in that. If you, I mean, in this lockdown, if you sit and see a serial for 2 hours, you can see how many women are against women and how many women shed tear, for hours and hours. And what we are trying to do, we are just trying to reinforce the patriarchal attitudes and cultures into the mindset of the next generation. And even if you see Cartoon Network, you can see women to be more emotional, and women to be more submissive, women to be always crying. Can't men cry? Of course, men can cry. And if a boy cries, what do we say? Why are you crying like a woman? And if a girl fights with you, what do you call? We ourselves say that, why do you fight like a man? Or why do you behave like a man? These are the kind of attitude that we stereotype again and again, and we inculcate or we reinforce such kind of attitudes into the individual mindset. And which again, is the reason to some extent for the sexual harassment in the later stages of the life. When in the adult stage of the life, we are trying to build or inculcate certain characteristics within individual's mindset. So this plays a role in the future when they think about a woman, or when they think about a woman working in the organization, whoever it is, when she is a counterpart or when she is a colleague in the department. So what do we think about men? So men need to be aggressive, men need to be independent, men need not be easily influenced, dominant, active, worldly, not easily hurt emotional, decisive, not all talkative, tough, less sensitive to others' feelings, not very desirous of security, rarely cries, logical, analytical, cruel, blunt, not nurturing. There are so many characteristics that is associated with the masculine characteristics. So what are these gender stereotyping? As I was discussing with few examples, these are the ideas that are so strong often that we also start internalizing and believing in them. Internalization is nothing but, you take up certain values to the core of your heart and you start believing in it. For instance, I would say, when I talk about your father or when I talk about your mother, immediately that image comes before you, and you know how they are, how their bodily frame is, and what they talk, and what are the type of conversations they have. So this kind of characteristics are so strongly internalized within the mindset of an individual. So similarly, the roles played by the gender also are internalized by an individual, and that is what, when we talk about few things repeatedly again and again, that are inculcated within the mindset and that are also internalized with one's mindset. So how do we change this stereotyping? Let's not say that you look like a woman, or I would share a small example or small experience that I had in my course. So like last year, by this time, we were in US for the conference on women's studies. And in that conference, I was surprised to see a tag like this, how we wear an identity card. So there they do have an ID card which talks about their gender. So there, like, people are more individualistic form. So there you can't say like you look like a woman or you look like a man, because when you use a word you look like a woman, it's an offensive according to that I mean their rules in their country. We visited California, and in California, this is the information they gave us. And the people who took this tag, there was, you know what the tag was? The tag is like, I call myself as a woman. So the individual person, so it's me who has to decide whether I look like a woman or whether I look like a man or whether I look like a transgender, whatever it is, whatever I wish I can tell. So you have all kinds of ID card there, and you can choose one of it, and you can look like a woman and you can call yourself like a man. I mean, you can say that I call myself as a man. That's your wish. So that's how the gender construction goes, and it was totally a new experience to me. And but it was fantastic learning, like how individualistic form is so much respected in a country like US. So the individualistic form is highly respected. So I don't mean to say so much of changes to be brought in here. I need to say that at least a minimum kind of changes where you don't harm the other person or you don't harm the gender by just saying that or by just thinking that she's a woman. So that, like, whatever you like you can wear is your interest. So we'll never use kind of terms like you look like a girl. So act like a lady. So no, we need not think about that you need to act like a lady. You can be yourself. So think like a man. So it's only a thinking process, and it need not be like a man or it might not be like a woman. So thinking is just a process. It depends on your knowledge and it depends on your enrichment of your experiences or whatever it is. So let us not say think like a man. Words like boss. So this kind of words are changed. So now I think for housewives, we never used term. I mean, people in feminism or people in social women studies have fought for it in a greater extent, and now people don't say that it is housewife. House cannot have a wife naturally. House is just a building, like, and it cannot have wife, and it cannot be called like that. So that is what people reconstructed it, and now we do call homemaker. That, why do we have to bring in small changes in the words that we speak, or the words that we use in the text, or the media that portrays a woman? All this plays a major role in constructing an attitude of an individual, especially the boy's attitude and the girl. First boy's attitude and then girl's attitude, because girls' attitude are more framed more submissively and accommodative to the patriarchal structure. However, the structure that dominates, or the person that dominates in a particular context is framed by the society. So why do we much emphasize on family? So we emphasize on family because family is the basic unit of society, and society is a composite of family. So any individual in the family plays a major role in the society. So the individual construction of attitude starts from the family. So that is where we need to socialize the gender in more responsible way, in a way that that person gets accommodated with the society, and in a way that that person doesn't harm the people in the society. That is much needed. That is what gender socialization starts in the family, and the family plays a role in socializing the gender of an individual. Yeah, and in countries like in countries like India or like ours, you can see the mother of a son itself is looked in a different way, and she's more respected and she's given more privileges, and mother of a daughter is looked in a different way, and she's least respected. And you would think, ma'am, do you want to speak these concepts in 2020? Yes, of course, even in 2020s we do have that discrimination in various platforms. And you see, these pictures will say, what do you wish, a girl or a boy? It's not a matter for a woman. But again, the old woman says that hopefully it will be a boy. But so this is where in this context, I would say that most of people would be saying women are against women. No, women are not against women. It is the patriarchal structure that is within the mindset of a woman. The senior most women might have that patriarchal value, and that patriarchal value has impact on the next generation. So this patriarchal setup can be within the mindset of an individual, or it can be within the mindset of an a man or a woman, whoever it is. So what are the areas, I mean, what are the constructions that give socialization, or what are the uh, medias, I mean, what are the platforms that socialize your gender? So there are various platforms which has, role in constructing the gender. And if you see in that, media plays a major role and the family plays a major role. So if media is going to play the major role, you can see everyday's experience in the media. So how is the media portrays women? So media portrays women in more accommodative to the patriarchal society. So the media says repeatedly that women are against women. So if you see a woman being portrayed in the media, and if you take a serial, you can see women crying for hours and hours, and which again, plays a major role in constructing the attitude of an individual. So I keep telling in all my talks to all my women or all my students who are at, please do not look into the serials, or become a serial writer who can bring in the gender balance. So there are few movies which talk about gender inequality or gender discriminations. Like in Tamil, there was a movie called as Muppatharu Vayadinille, and there were some other movies like this which talks about the prevailing gender imbalances in the cultural context and prevailing gender imbalance in the family setup. So those kind of movies maybe didn't get much awareness, or maybe they did not reach much to the end of the society, might be. So there are, I mean, families, the only message that I wanted to tell you here is the family is the basic unit of society. So there are many people who frames your attitude. So one might be the media, the major role that you can see the advertisements, even a Blade advertisement will have women over there. So I don't think there is a need over there, but still, the commercialized world portrays women as a objectification. I mean, objectified women. So this is kind of, I would say it as a sexual objectification. So the view is that only a sexual object rather than looking upon women as a, human being. So women's rights are women, human rights that we need to recognize. And looking at the scriptures, how do we construct the attitude of an individual, or how do you frame the gender roles? Look at this picture. You go, I mean, even today, I mean, even in 2020, if you see, if you go to a baby girl's birthday, what are the toys that you would buy? I mean, after looking at this, we'll definitely have the idea. I mean, if I'm going to a birthday of a baby girl, definitely I would buy toys like this. And if I'm going to a birthday of a baby boy, the toys would be like this. And you can see the picture like here. And in that case, have you ever, or have we ever thought that the baby is restricted to such kind of toys? Sorry. The baby is not restricted to such kind of toys. Instead, we hold a view about that gender that the baby would be expecting only such kind of toys. There would be babies which love to play with the baby doll, or there would be baby girls who would be, willing to play with the, the toys which are like, trucks or guns or whatever it is. But the individuals around, or the people like us, the people who are the society, the people around that particular family frames or plays a role in framing such kind of attitude. So this is where we need to relook, and it might be the small things that play a major role in gender construction, but these are all each important in constructing the attitude of an individual. So as the child, boys get toys like trucks, guns, superheroes, while the girls given toys and cooking sets, which again you say that boys need to see. There are two types of communication. One is the verbal communication and one is the non-verbal communication. So in the verbal communication, might be you will say, no, I'm not like that. But in the non-verbal communication, which is, you don't communicate through the mouth, but again, you communicate through your actions. In those actions, you expect particular gender to play certain roles, and, that is where, the construction of attitude has got a strong role. So this conditioning manipulates the young mind into believing that they must act within their given space. So the young minds are expected to play within the given space in the society. So what are the challenges? Girls who do not conform to the stereotypical expectation can experience criticism, ostracism, and even violence. This also puts unwarranted pressures on boys. And there might not be all boys who are willing to experience or who might be interested in showing their heroism. There might be boys who are interested in being, so soft, who might be interested in taking up all the activities that is done within the kitchen. There is nothing wrong in it. But do we encourage that and do we empower such kind of gender is a big question. So there can be boys who loves to read, who dislike fighting, who dislike sports, or who dislikes mechanics, whatever it is. So gender equality benefits both boys and girls. So in this condition or in this context, it is much important that gender sensitization or gender equality definitely benefits both boys and girls. So when we talk about women's rights, we don't mean to say that it can be to violate a man's right. No, not at all. But people misconceptionally take that and believe that we are trying to break that men's right. So look at this, even when you can look at the following pictures. So this is a kind of discrimination. Even when person works, the other person sits and looks at it, and we keep saying that women don't work and women just stay at home. Staying at home and taking care of home and taking care of the family members is such a big work that needs to be recognized and that needs to be valued to the greater extent, which again can be helpful in preventing the gender discrimination. See, there are few myths that we are talking about. And in this case, when we say that sometimes women themselves believe that, their identity is associated with their son, they are associated with their husband, and it is associated with the father. So we are made to believe that and we identify ourselves in that manner. So therefore, these contexts also need to be changed. This should be changed within the mindset of a woman. So look at this cartoon. So these are just for jokes. And a boy looking at a father asks for meaning of what is the motherland. The son replies that, the father replies that the mothers to work on and the fathers to want. Which again, this is the practical situations that is prevailing in our country. And when you talk about land rights or when you talk about the immovable properties to women, you will have different conflicts. And somehow we either over superfy that, saying that women are capable of multitasking and women can do this work, that work. Yes, we over exaggerate to certain conditions also. That also we need to relook and changes. So in a gender equal world, both benefit. So allow boys to express their emotions, encourage them to be expressive. There is nothing wrong in it. Involve them in activities like gardening and cooking. So it's a good thing to bring in changes. Expose girls to the role models in the businesses, especially those outside the stereotype like doctors, scientists, leaders. As I was talking about the women's leadership, we need to expose girls to that level so that women tend to change their attitude about their own self. These role models will help the girls to see themselves in a professional outside the normal stereotypes, which is much important. So we need to change the small things that we speak also. As I told you, how housewife is changed to the homemaker, and which makes little more respectful to a woman, which we call it as a homemaker. So similarly, there are the activities like maidman can be called as postal worker, salesman can be called as salesperson. And I think in academic institutions like us, we do have a word called as chairman, and now it is changed to chairperson, which is gender neutral word and much important to change the way that small things we look into the world. That is much important. So see, there are myths like, as I was telling, preferred roles like women's roles are secretary, nurse, teacher. Preferred men's roles are boss, pilot, manager, politician, surgeon, farmer, etc. So if you one day if I have a chance, I might be will interact on the one-to-one person and see how much of gender construction in each individual has about our own self and about the self of the others. So this for example, our grandmother experience is entirely different from us. She would have lived in a very strong patriarchal culture, but we do live in a patriarchal culture, but not in a very strong patriarchal culture. That is a small change that we can see. At least we have the chance to speak about our rights, and we can speak about the difficulties or the issues, or we are able to raise our voices because of the education and the economic independence and other some more criteria that is added on to our life in a way that we are able to speak out and raise our voices. So women interested towards articles, dependent, jealousy. So these are all, a kind of attitude that is prevailing within the society. So the society with equality. So if you see, these are all just taken up to discuss. Men of quality will respect women's equality. Quality of men is given by family, which is a composite of both men and women. So as an individual in the family, we do play a major role in constituting the individual's attitude. So there we need to, play a gender equal role so that, the gender discrimination will not exist. So next, coming to this is one word that I would say Gloria Steinem has spoken about, and we met her in that conference, and we were happy to see her. And she has always been telling that, we have begun to raise our daughters like sons, but we have failed to grow our daughters like sons. So, like growing a daughter like son is very, very easy. Growing son like daughter is a bit challenging issue, where you will have a lot of social construct, and the society might not accept that particular boy in the society. So we need to allow boys to express their feelings, and it's okay that if a boy cries, and it's okay if a boy cooks. There is nothing wrong in it. So it's like how an individual is allowed. So coming to the connection between this gender construction and the sexual harassment. So when you have so much of gender discriminatory attitude, and you have involved so much of gender discriminatory practices from this the family to the society, naturally a men holds a view about women that women are sexual objects, and they don't tend to see professionally equal women or intellectually caliber women where they see themselves as an equal, or where they can look upon women with respect. So this objectification kind of attitude sustains strongly within the mindset of a man. That is where the harassment, I think people who handle harassment cases would definitely know that men sometimes don't even know what is harassment. This is where we try to create awareness. And my friends over here, the boys, friends over in this virtual platform, I would say that you cannot just take women for granted, because the acts are so strong, and you cannot look upon women as a sexual object. Instead we need to look upon women as an intellectually caliber or equal person with a man, which cannot be discriminated based on the gender. So before going to the Sexual Harassment Act, I will tell you a story. This is a small story which will take for maybe 2 minutes. So there was a social worker called as, Banwari Devi, who was working in state of Rajasthan against, child marriage. So when she was working against child marriage, she tended to prevent the child marriage happening in her village. And when she stopped there, the men in the higher community were not able to accept that. And anytime a woman does, we take it for granted. And what they did also was for taken for granted. And they immediately, gang raped her in front of her husband. And she took it to the case of state of a high court in the state of Rajasthan, but the case was not taken up, and she moved the case to the Supreme Court. And she was strong enough lady to fight through, NGO. And this particular case happened in 1992, and it took nearly 16 years to bring it to the Supreme Court and make it as a landmark judgment. In 2008, so the Supreme Court of India gave a landmark judgment stating that it's a Vishaka guidelines. So Vishaka guidelines is a guidelines that helped women to prevent her from sexual harassment at workplace. So though this act took 16 years, the implementation part was not much strong. You can look the patriarchal structures that are so strong, and it takes so long to break any kind of patriarchy, and to bring to come down to the ground level. So what happened was, in spite of the act guidelines being implemented in 2008, it was not much reach to the community. So as you all know, in 2012 there was a Nirbhaya case, where the physiotherapy student was gang raped in a running bus. So that case was similar to this case, and there was a lot of pressure from her mother, especially Nirbhaya, and also the public. What happened was, Nirbhaya, sat in front of the parliament for more than 12 days to make this guidelines into act, where she strongly said that any kind of such kind of case should never happen to the daughters of other daughters of India. And she was such a nice lady, and she made the act happen. So that is how the Vishaka guidelines was upgraded into Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act 2013 and Criminal Amendment Act 2013, which both the acts clearly defined it about the rape and the sexual harassment that happens to a woman in workplace. So these both cases, that is the Banwari Devi's case and the Nirbhaya's case, played a major role in bringing in this act, Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act. So what does this act say about? So boys here need to be very, very clear that there are three strong acts which are very strong against women. One is the Domestic Violence Act 2005, and the other one is the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act 2013. So this both the acts, I mean, Domestic Violence Act we'll talk in another one forum, but today we'll talk about the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. So according to this act, if a woman feels she is harassed, then it is. So the act is so strong, and the act is so liberal towards women's feeling, because it's much needed, and it is the need of the hour to make it so strong. So as we are living in a patriarchal society, if the act is not so strong, then it is not going to be implemented in a stronger way. In spite of the act being so strong, the implementation part is still, not in a better way, because one of my research talks about the implementation part of sexual harassment, and it is heartening, or it is painful to note that is only in the paper, and it happens in a peripheral way, because it shows strongly that we still live in a patriarchal society. So, what is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment need not be sexual alone. It can be physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, whatever it is. So, that is what is the definition of the sexual harassment talks about. So, even sending a text message sexually, sexual talks on the text message, or pornographic pictures, and any kind of unwelcoming behavior that a woman feels it is unwelcoming is a harassment. So the boys need to be very clear about this, and you just can't anyone know that it's a harassment, because all the committees that we have been handling, I see that men tend to say that I didn't intentionally do it to have sex with her. That's the reply they say to it. But any kind of activities that a woman feels harassment is a harassment. So nobody can talk about it, or nobody can question on that. So you cannot take women for granted. That is what I tell my boy. If in that case, I would say that media plays a major role in that. See, yeah, our pictures and our media say that if a boy once is rejected, and second time is rejected, and third time is rejected, and fourth time is rejected, fifth time he'll be liked. That's how the portrayal of a boy, or the portrayal of a woman, and the women at the fifth time is accepts that boy who is being rejected. So this kind of portrayal makes men think that once a woman rejects, she is trying to accept. That is the meaning it's conveyed. But the act, or as a woman, women studies professional, or as a feminist, I would say that if a woman says no, it means no. And it cannot be that she says no and she's ready to accept in the later stages. No, not at all. If she says no, it's no. Take it in the right sense, and never take medias and pictures that portray in a different way and say that if a woman says no in the later stages, she might accept. That's how the messages are conveyed. Please do not take such kind of messages. Instead, if a woman says no, it's no. Take it in the right sense. That is much important. General workplace harassment refers to the common forms of inappropriate behavior. So there are two kinds. One is a quid pro quo, which literally means this for that. Implied or explicit promise, preferential regimental treatment in the employment, which we say that if you give this, I'll give that. So this for that environment is created, then it is a harassment. And hostile environment, creating a hostile environment where the person doesn't feel comfortable to work on. So who is an aggrieved woman? So these are all the definitions that are given in the act. Like might be I'll give 10 minutes for the discussion, and you can go, come up with the doubts you have. So aggrieved women is one person who has been affected by the sexual harassment, or who has been undergone the sexual harassment. So aggrieved women can be anybody who works in an institution. So if she has undergone a sexual harassment, then I mean she can be called as a group woman. And who can raise the complaint? Anybody working in the institution. Once you step out of the home to work outside home, yes, you can raise a complaint, and you face the harassment, you can just raise a complaint. So workplace covers any kind of organizations like government organization, private organization, hospitals, nursing homes, sports institutions, whatever it is. I mean, any institution having more than 10 employees need to constitute this ICC. I mean, the internal complaints committee. So organized sector needs to have ICC committee, and the unorganized sector needs to have LCC committee, which is a local complaints committee. So ICC committee is constituted in the organized sectors like government organizations or private organization, any institution having more than 10 employees. So that is what is the organized sector and unorganized sector. So what is unwelcoming behavior? So boys, and girls need to note down this. One feeling that a person feels bad is an unwelcoming behavior, and it is one-sided and feels powerless. It feels power-based, and one person feels unwanted, and person feels that it is illegal, and person feels that he is invading the private space, or one person feels that it's demeaning, causes anger and sadness, causes negative self-esteem. These kind of characteristics are called as unwelcoming behavior. So if a boy talks to a girl and girl feels happy and she responds and feels good, then it is okay to be, it's called as a welcoming behavior, which is again reciprocal, in control, equality, wanted, legal, open, appreciative, happy, positive self-esteem are all, a kind of welcoming behaviors. So behaviors that cause harassment at workplace, this, as you all know, you cannot tease a person, repeated offensive remarks, offensive comments and jokes, making sexually suggested remarks, inappropriate questions, suggestions to remarks about one's person's sexual life. This kind of questions cannot be put forward, which again is not accepted in the society or in by a women. So women definitely know what causes sexual harassment, and if women tries to reject it, men needs to understand that and maintain their own discipline and individuality. So displaying sexist or offensive picture posters, SMS, WhatsApp, emails, intimation threats, blackmail around sexual favors, threats, intimidation, all unwelcoming behaviors as we discussed in the earlier stages. So even physical touches like pinching, carrying, kissing, fondling someone against her will, invasion of the personal space, then persistently asking someone to come out. So stalking an individual, abuse of authority. So it all depends on the institutions and the situations, controlling a person's reputation, rumoring about an individual. Okay, so exclusion from the group activities, statement damaging persons' their reputations, inappropriately giving too little or too much work. This people who work in workplace will know this, and even students can complain. Even if the student and the guide is there, and the guide is going to harass sexually or show pornographic pictures or send SMSs, yes, I mean students are also able to complain under this ICC. Unjustifiably monitoring, simply monitoring everywhere. So blaming an individual constantly, repeatedly signaling, then again insults, humiliation. So look at this, systematically humiliating a person in front of colleagues, arbitrarily taking a disciplinary action against an employee, controlling the persons without holding the resources. So these are the kind of that happens in an organized sector. So for this case study, I mean, I'll just narrate you what is this case study, and maybe you can take up this PPT and read in the later stages. So this is a situation where it is described about a household activity where the domestic. I mean, you would have seen these pictures in many of your cinema fields, like a person comes to the house home, a domestic worker comes, and domestic worker is being harassed by that particular man, or questioned by that particular man, physically or emotionally or verbally, whatever it is harassed, then that case can be taken up to the LCC committee. So there are two examples, such kind of examples given on this PPT. So who can complain and where can complain? So such complaints can be given to the local complaints committee, and the formal organized sector in institutions like academic institutions like us, it can be taken up to the ICC committee. So what is the what are the descriptions of the ICC committee? So ICC committee members need to be very clear about the incident. They need to be clearly taking up the note of the incident with the timings, date, and the respondent's name and the parties working with the relationship. So this is for the ICC committee members, where committee members need to be gender sensitized, or they need to be sensitized towards the issue. That is much important. See, a woman laughs at a man and man takes it as advantage and say that when I spoke to her, she laughed at me. So I took it as a positive note to my idea. If a person comes out like that, we need to be very sensitive. If a woman laughs at a man, it doesn't mean that it is okay to that particular man's comment. That is much important. So, and gender sensitization with regard to the issue among the committee members is much needed. So, reviewing the written complaints, reviewing the applicable policies, particular organization policies, and the acts, Vishaka guidelines, and the relevant laws need to be very clear among the committee members. They should develop a plan. They should meet with the complainant. They should meet with the respondent. So meet with the witnesses also. So review and adapt to the plan as needed. Proceed with the further interviews as needed, if needed. I mean, this ICC committee is vested with the powers of civil court. So if needed, you can even go for the second review also, second interview also. Analyze all the factors, developing the reasons. So arrive at the findings. So as like you are functioning like a court, so you need to be very clear with the rules and regulations of the act, and you need to be gender sensitized. So you can give recommendations to the institutions based on your findings. So prepare a report, submit the file to the organization in case of ICC committee, and submit the report to the district officer in case of the LCC committee for the recommendation and for the safe implementation. Submission of the complaint should be, just to know the timelines, submission of the complaint should be within the 3 months of the incident. Notices of the respondent within the 7 days after the reception of the complaint. Completion of the inquiry should be done within 90 days. And submission of the report by ICC or LCC to the employer should be within the 10 days after the completion of the inquiry. Implementation of recommendation within 60 days. Appeal may be within 90 days. So I wish and believe that all need to be safe, and all my boys need to treat women with dignity, and all my girls need to treat their girl counterparts, boys, with dignity. And let us move into a gender equal society and live in a safe society. Thank you for the opportunity. And if at all you have any question, you can come up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Dear students, now the session open for questions. Yes, students.
I think, ma'am, everyone is clear with the presentation of yours.
Yeah.
Questions to ask.
Yeah. And not only that, because this deals with attitudinal change and we are new to this virtual platform, I think, we are not much comfortable like, one-to-one interaction that we make. So that make people to come up with a lot of questions, and especially when it's on the virtual platform, we do have less questions. Maybe I'll give up this, PPT and the PDF file that the Ministry of Women and Child has put up on the sexual harassment guidelines for the committee members and for the students. If at all they have doubt, it's a very easy manual which can be read even by a common man. So it's not like an exact like a law book or something like that. So it's very clear. So I'll just text and mail it to Gaurama madam, and everybody can get it and just go through it.
What we can do is we can collect some questions. If they have any questions, we can collect it and send it to you as a Word file, so that you can answer, and we can give it to them individually. That will be a better one.
Definitely.
That's what I.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving your valuable insight on gender sensitization and to prevention of sexual harassment. I am sure your address will help you a lot in understanding gender sensitization and to prevent sexual harassment, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now over to Dr. Kathy to vote of thanks.
Yeah.
Vote of thanks.
Gaurama madam. So respected Dr. Kamalaveni madam, for your most valued, you are our most valued guest for today occasion, and our dear students. And I thank our principal sir, especially for giving us opportunity to organize this such type of programs. And I thank JSS Higher University, Mysuru, and the entire ICC team for conducting this type of programs for the awareness among the students. And I would like to say for the students one line, that it is just not respected towards the women's gender. It is for the men's also. Okay, ma'am, as we are seeing nowadays, men's are getting more affected by this thing, and women's are just wrongly putting them into the wrong manner for the men's side. So it is for the both genders, for the women's and the men. It's just not particularly towards the women. Just as women's cases are more and it is more in limelight, so we are addressing here the women issues. And I thank our B1 Police Inspector, Mr. J.C. Nagarajan, NGO member, and Mr. Rangaswamy, advocate. And in the last but not the least, I thank our Dr. J. Kumar sir and Mr. Gautam. And Dr. J. Kumar sir is always the backbone of this type of virtual programs. Without him, we cannot conduct this type of programs without any hustles. Thank you, sir, for always being with us and supporting us in all this such programs. Thank you, sir. And
my privilege, Dr. Kayati.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, our students, for taking your valuable time. And hope you have understood the importance of the gender sensitization. If you have any questions further, you can ask us. We are the committee members. And those who are in the college, you have our numbers displayed on the boards. And for others, can get the numbers from the website. Once you will back in the college, definitely we will meet one-to-one. We'll be having one-to-one interaction. So thank you, everyone. Be safe, stay well. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Jaikumar sir.
Yeah, we can close.
My special thanks to Jaikumar sir and Gautam.
Yes, thank you very much. And students, you can visit whenever you want to see this presentation in our college YouTube, and you can visit the college YouTube and you can subscribe to that channel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.